Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's review the facts. There are currently 41 national emergencies that are subject to periodic congressional review, including the emergency declaration related to Libya, which is more than a decade old. The National Emergencies Act mandates Congress consider joint resolutions terminating national emergencies at least every 6 months. Let's think about that. Every 6 months. That's our job. Not the president's, our job. Yet Congress has never, not even once, reviewed the legitimacy of the national emergency related to Libya since its declaration by President Obama in 2011. Nor has Congress reviewed any of the national emergencies debated today as required by law. Almost comically, the extended national emergency related to Libya still cites Muammar Gaddafi as a reason for declaration. Mr. Speaker, Muammar Gaddafi has been dead for almost 12 years. You can't make this stuff up. The situation in Libya poses no extraordinary threat to the national security or foreign policy of the United States. Once again, temporary measures, short-term, punch, terminate. Furthermore, no group or person in Libya currently poses a threat to our national security. Furthermore, even if there was some hostility, none rises to the level of unusual and extraordinary threat to national security. To that extent, and to there is a desire for certain sanctions, they can be applied without these national emergency declarations in compliance with the Constitution, federal laws, and national security needs. Now that's an important point here. We can adjust these, we can put these in different places that adhere to our Constitution, our legal aspects, because once again, this is us. Despite the unconfounded concern, sanctioned with individuals and entities can be redesignated pursuant to other authorities available to the President, including, not limited to, existing national emergencies related to terrorism, Russia, and Iran. National emergencies are supposed to be rare and brief. In passing the National Emergencies Act in 1976, Congress did not intend for the executive to utilize declarations for decades in order to apply sanctions. That is something Congress can do separately from a national emergency declaration. In fact, let's look at the history of the National Emergencies Act. It was written to respond to FDR and to Truman in keeping the country orderly, explicitly detailing them why state of emergency as part of their daily governance. That's what they used the national emergencies for. Congress allowed these tyrannical authorities to remain in place is recklessly endangering our republic, checks and balances, and the civil liberties of our constituents. Under all these extended national emergencies declarations, the U.S. Code provides the President with an additional 135 statutory powers, including test chemical and biological weapons on human beings, including American citizens. Can you say COVID? Take down or take over or shut down radio stations and U.S.-based internet traffic. Wow, censorship. Detail members of our armed forces, waive sanctions on confidentiality provisions related to public health services, impose crippling and unconstitutional sanctions on American citizens that could freeze their financial assets or restrict anyone from selling them groceries, renting them an apartment, representing them as an attorney, providing dental and medical treatment, and much more, all without any due process supposedly afforded by the Constitution. Clearly, the President thinks he has authority to invoke these special statutory powers absent an executive order, explicitly detailing them, which is why he announced his intention to forgive student loans via press release instead of an executive order. Oh, but voila, the U.S. Supreme Court said you can't do that. What does this president do again? He turns around and does it again, shoving it in the court's face. Under the extended national emergency declarations, Congress advocates control over policy and spending and instead transferred unfettered power to the executive branch. For example, despite repeated bicameral requests, Biden had never provided a single expenditure report related to the COVID-19 national emergency declaration as required periodically by law. Not one. Now, how can we, Congress, with the explicit power of the purse, allow any president to spend money without requiring reporting? Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the United States Constitution says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law and regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. Further, 50 U.S.C. 1641C clearly states, quote, "The President shall submit to Congress within 90 days after each of the 6-month period. After such declaration, a report on the total expenditures incurred by the United States government during that 6-month period." Despite repeated, and I said repeated requests, there have been no expenditure reports to this date allocated in COVID-19 national emergency. Nor was there a final report that was due on July 9th. In fact, what we heard is this president realized that he was behind the gun, and he actually rushed it through on the 7th, had the Secretary of Health and Human Services actually try to do it for him. What a shame. The Constitution clearly provides Congress with the power of the purse, not the president, regardless of supposed emergencies. These emergencies are supposed to be limited, not forever bearing. We got to come up with a different solution, folks. This is not working. This doesn't work at all. And for us particularly, we as Congress haven't done our job. Every 6 months, if you hear what I'm saying here, every 6 months, we should be bringing these up, whether their application is great or feathered or very, very faint. And we should discuss this. What about Libya? What about Yemen? What about these other ones, Iraq and others? By the way, this is regular order. Anything we're detailing here is regular order. You know, this is almost comical to me. I hate to say it in that light, but when Senator Church put this together, put this detail together, he spent a lot of time trying to address this publicly, trying to get as many people involved as he could. And yet we turn around and do this to him. We got to come up with something better, something different, something short-lived, something that actually can keep our eye on the prize. I don't know whether it's something that we put together in a clearinghouse for known terrorists, and whether we utilize that in some way, shape, or form, so that we can make sure that we're keeping up to date on all that. But something has to happen, and it's not in the national emergencies. With that, I ask all those in favor to vote for my amendment. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.